control of Jerusalem in 1187. This was the first domino that set fire under the idea of the Third Crusade. To fathom the idea of Muslims parading around the Holy Land was horrid, and the call of another holy fight from the mountain Christians all around Europe. 3 European kings headed to take the call of the Crusades: King Philip II of France, Emperor Frederick Barbarossa of Germany, and King Richard of England. After raising money for the Crusades, Europe set off on the journey toward the Middle East. On the way there, destination, however, disaster struck the German army when the emperor, aged 70, drowned in rushing stream. Most of his men, without his zealous leader, turned back toward Germany. King Richard and King Philip, however, could not stay on good terms. After many disagreements and heated arguments, the victory of Arques was replaced by the right of the French army sailing back towards Europe.
Before we get into details with the Third Crusade, let's get to know the leaders first. The first one is Saladin, who was one of the greatest enemies of the English Crusades. He was born in 1137 in a small town in Mesopotamia. Saladin, at the age of 31, became the commander of Egypt. Saladin attempted to unite Palestine, Mesopotamia, and Syria for control during the First Crusade. Saladin's great achievements inspired the Third Crusade to move on. The second leader was Richard the Lionheart. He was the greatest war hero and was respected throughout Europe. He was born in September 8, 1157, and in the year 1172, he was enthroned. Richard was the one who conquered Acre in the Battle of the Third Crusade. The third leader is Frederick I of Germany. He was born in 1122 and was crowned in 1155. He was known for his anti-pope views. He took his army and marched over the mountain pass while the others sailed across the sea. His campaign was cut short when he drowned in a fast-moving river, causing his army to turn back on him. The last but not least leader is King Philip of France, who was born on August 21, 1165. He was recognized for his large army. After sailing across the sea, he met up with Richard and laid siege on Acre. He spent 23 months fighting at Acre. The Third Crusade was caused by the capture of Jerusalem in 1187 by Saladin, who was the Sultan of Egypt. Saladin united the Muslims of Syria under his sway and then advanced against the Latin kingdom of Jerusalem. The Christians then met Saladin in a great battle near the Lake of Galilee. It ended in the rout of their army and to the capture of their king. The Christian cities of Syria opened their gates to him, and at last Jerusalem itself surrendered after a short siege. The news of taking of Jerusalem spread consternation throughout western Christendom. The 3 greatest rulers of Egypt were King Philip Augustus of France, King Richard I of England, and the German Emperor Frederick Barbarossa. These great rulers set out, each at the head of a large army, for the recovery of the holy city of Jerusalem. Emperor Frederick, according to the most probable accounts, was drowned while crossing a swollen stream, and the most of the survivors of his army, disheartened by the loss of their leader, returned to Germany. On the other hand, the English and the French kings finally shared their forces beneath the walls of Acre, in which the city of the Christians were then besieging. It is estimated that about 600,000 men were engaged in the investment of the place. After one of the longest and most costly sieges they ever carried on in Asia, the Crusaders at last forced the place to capitulate in spite of all the efforts of Saladin to render the garrison belief. The expedition of the French and English achieved little other than the capture of Acre. King Philip soon went home, leaving the further conduct of the crusade in Richard's hands. The English king remained in the Holy Land. His campaigns during this time gained for him the title of Leonhardin, by which he is always known. He had many adventures and performed knightly exploits without number, but could not capture Jerusalem itself. During a truce, some crusaders went up to Jerusalem, in which Richard refused to accompany them. saying that he would not enter as a pilgrim to the city which he could not rescue as a conqueror. The English king remained for longer in the Holy Land than the other leaders. Remain an undisturbed possession of the coast from Jaffa to Tyre, King Richard then set sail for England, and with his departure from the Holy Land, the Third Crusade came to an end. King Richard, on his return from the Holy Land, was shipwrecked off the coast of the Adriatic, attempting to travel through Austria in disguise. He was captured by the Duke of Austria, whom he had offended at the siege of Acre. The king regained his liberty only by paying a ransom equivalent to more than twice the annual revenues of England. King Richard and Saladin finally concluded a truce by the term of which Christians were permitted to visit Jerusalem without paying any tribute at all, that they should have free access to the holy place. Victories have served as a significant counterbalance to Saladin's early victories. He emerged from the Third Crusade not quite as invincible as he had the first appeared. The Third Crusade also led to the equestrian of Cyprus by the Latins. This was a major addition to Outremer and one that outlasted the mainland. Its equestrian was important not only because it created a new crusader state, but it was also important because it had been taken away from the Greeks. Yet the Third Crusade did succeed in a very important way. It preserved Outremer because of the Third Crusade. Outremer still clung to a narrow strip of the cities along the coast of Lebanon and Palestine, and those cities could serve as the basis for the future efforts to reclaim back Jerusalem. The Third Crusade also gave birth to the Teutonic Knights. The military order was forced at Acre by survivors of the German Crusade. They were never as important in the Holy Land as either the Templars of the Hospitallers, but they always maintained a contingent and were there at the end in 1291. Finally, in failing to regain Jerusalem, the Third Crusade marks the beginning of the 40 years of almost continuous crusading from Europe. None enjoyed very great success, and certainly none could claim even the modest victories on the field of battle that Richard had won.